Good day. I have with me Dr. Oscar van Heerden. We're talking politics, specific ANC politics. Magashule was removed from the ANC's NEC meeting on Saturday. But he wasn't the only one that was removed. It was also Bongani Bongo and a whole lot of other ANC members had to stand aside according to a resolution that the ANC took on the matter of corruption. But there's one important question, Oscar, and that is the other people that have to stand aside. Are those people important enough to make an impact on the fight against corruption?
Yeah, thanks, Isaac. You see, the thing is that indeed there is not that many individuals in the ANC that have been charged with criminal cases by the National Prosecuting Authority. I can count the number of people in both my hands, and those are the people that the ANC is saying must now step aside. We are talking here of Gumede from KZN. We are talking of Bongo, as you've mentioned. There's also the deputy chair of KwaZulu-Natal, and so on and so forth. And there's one or two in the Eastern Cape. So these are a handful of people that the ANC is saying they must step aside. There's one thing I must clarify, Isaac, which is that when you listen to the ramblings of the suspended ANC Secretary General, Magashule, he makes this point about the resolution of conference being implemented selectively. And that's why he feels targeted. And I think it's important that we clarify that. Indeed, when you read the resolution from the National Conference of Nazareth 2017, one could argue that there are two components to the resolution. The one component says those that are charged formally by the NPA and is appearing in court to face criminal charges and or serious crimes, they must step aside. There's no questions, they must step aside. But then there's a second component to the resolution that says those people that have allegations against them, where people have alleged that they are involved in corruption or wrongdoing, those ones must be subjected to an internal ANC process, which is that they must be presented to the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission must then investigate and verify whether there is substance to the allegation and whether there is evidence, and then make recommendations to the disciplinary committee as well as the NEC as to what must happen with those people. Now you can imagine the amount of people that falls in the second category can be quite large, because anyone can make allegations against anyone. And so the ANC NEC decided in their decision in March, what is more important at this stage, because we are going to local government elections and because we need to protect the name of the ANC, those ones that fall in the first component of the resolutions, meaning those that are already facing charges and appearing in court, they must step aside. They cannot take the ANC's name into the courtrooms and is part of this process. That is what is causing disrepute for the ANC. And so I don't think ANC is correct in wanting to now say that he's being targeted selectively. The NEC made a conscious decision, and indeed, constitutionally, they can change, amend resolutions of conference. It's not true what Ace is saying in his interview that the NEC cannot do that. They can indeed do that, because it must be informed by material conditions and the situation in the country.
Oscar, the climate within the ANC have changed considerably. Never before division within the ANC have been struck so clearly as this past week. What happened?
No, I mean, the thing is that, the truth of the matter is, from where I'm sitting, Isaac, the president genuinely, post the conference, wanted to unite the party. He wanted to ensure that both sides of the line can come together, can work together, and indeed take the ANC and the country forward. Unfortunately, the Fight Back, or the RET group as they have become to be known, simply did not want to let up. They just were fighting all the time. You know and I know that Ramaphosa have been fighting battles with regards to the Fight Back group since the January 2018. From the moment they asked the then President Zuma to resign, to leave office, the battles started. And I think that, you know, it reached a crescendo to the extent that parallel to wanting to have unity in the ANC, there was also a judicial process. The prosecuting authorities, the investigations, etc., SARS and so forth is ongoing. And they got to a point where they now felt comfortable without the president's intervention, without the intervention of one faction of the ANC, because that is what Ace and his cronies are trying to imply. They then decided that they are ready to charge the Secretary General, to charge Bongo and Gumede and a few others. One, you know, they would obviously want us to believe that that was done selectively. But the truth of the matter is there was wrongdoing on their part, and the law has now caught up with them. And so, you know, what happened in the last NEC is, and to come to your question, Isaac, the president began to bring some of those that were opposing him across the line to him. I think a lot of people realized that actually we must stop fighting with the president, because what he's trying to do is to actually bring the party in good standing, to actually protect the brand ANC. And so they started gravitating towards him, and that's when he got the majority numbers in the NEC. I don't often quote Julius Malema, but I think you know, there's some leaf you can take out of his book when he says that if you decide to take on a sitting president of the republic, you better have your ducks in a row. And I think what he meant by that is that, you know, it took perhaps a little bit of time for Cyril to get comfortable in the seat at the West Wing, to appreciate and realize exactly what his powers are. And he's beginning to exercise. You know, I've always said, Isaac, that people had been unfair with regards to always accusing the president of being soft, not having a game plan, when in fact, we have seen small and significant successes over the last 3 years, whether it is the changing of a number of independent Chapter 9 institutions, you know, changing the leadership, getting rid of Sean Abrahams, getting rid of Tom Moyani, getting rid of Dudu Myeni, and so many others. And also the changing of the leadership and the boards of SOEs, state-owned enterprises. And then, of course, because we are so focused on the big fish, we don't realize, and J.P. Landman wrote such a beautiful article a few months ago in which he clearly indicates and show us the kinds of arrests that has been happening throughout the country at the middle level. You know, people that have been in corrupt practices. They've not delivered toilets. They've not built roads. They've taken money from Eskom, and so on and so forth. And this recent report, we've seen the SIU now seizing the homes and assets of top-level managers that was at Eskom. They think that because they resigned, they can run away from their corruption. But we are coming for them slowly but surely. And I think this must all be credited to the president. So I don't think he's soft. I think things are coming to a head. And as the way I can read the situation, Isaac, if Ace continues on this defiant mode that he's in, continues to have interviews and speak as if he is still the SG, he's going to face expulsion from the ANC very soon.
That's what I want to ask you about that now, because I want you to sketch us a picture of the ANC for the immediate future without Ace Magashule, because it is being said that you have to be aware Ace is going to put up a fight in as much as that you will have a repeat of Polokwane 2007. What is your take on that?
Okay, so maybe first to say that, because we need to clarify this one element. You know, Ace is going around saying that because he has appealed, therefore he is still the Secretary General of the ANC. And this is his main argument. Now, the fact that the NEC yesterday kicked him out of the meeting suggests to me that they are basically saying, look, you have a wrong interpretation of the rules and of the constitution of the ANC, and you are no longer the Secretary General in terms of having been suspended. Therefore, you are not welcome in the meeting. And I think it's important because to just clarify to people who might not understand, when in the case of Supra in the Northwest, Supra can appeal the decision of the Provincial Disciplinary Committee because it is provincial, and he still has the right to appeal to the National Disciplinary Appeals Committee. But in the case of ACE and others, or ACE et al., the decision to suspend them was made by the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Now, the Constitution is very clear. There is only one structure that is higher than the NEC, and that is the National Conference. So when you put in an appeal, you are appealing to the National Conference, which is scheduled to take place in December 2022. This rumor that the NEC might ask the elders and some senior people to form a committee to hear the appeal of Ace Magashule, I think that firstly, it is unconstitutional. There is no allowance for such a thing. But if the NEC wants to be generous and wants to sort of manage the politics that people are worried about, they might decide to have such a committee. I think it would be a pointless committee, but I just wanted to clarify that. His appeal does not mean he is still the Secretary General. That's the point. Now, the ANC moving forward. Fortunately, we have seen this before. It's not as if it's the first time. The very president, Ramaphosa, when he was Secretary General of the ANC, decided to up and leave. There are still speculations at the time in 1996 why he decided to leave, or a little bit earlier, not 1996, I think it was 94, 95, why he left the position of Secretary General, but he abruptly left, meaning there was a vacancy. What happened in that situation, the Constitution allows for the Deputy Secretary General, which at the time was Cheryl Carolus, to step up and to be the acting Secretary General. And the reason is that the NEC does not have the power to elect a new SG. They don't have the power to just elect a Secretary General. That is the domain and the right of the general membership of the ANC. And so there will be an acting position up until we get to conference where we will hear Ace Magashule's appeal, if he is still a member of the ANC, and reject it or accept it, etc., and elect a new Secretary General for the next 5-year term. So that's what happens with his position. As far as Ace Magashule is concerned, once you are suspended, the ANC is very clear, and they have given him, he calls it a banishing order. You know, he's very dramatic. He wants to say we are back in old apartheid. He has been giving banning orders. But the fact of the matter is, it has been common practice in the ANC. Once you are suspended, you are given certain rules that you cannot actually perform. For example, an obvious one is, you are now suspended as the Secretary General. You can't go around in the country claiming to still be the Secretary General. I mean, that would be nonsensical. You are no longer acting in that position. You know, you are suspended, and that must be accepted at that. You cannot go around advocating against this decision, because that would sow division, etc., Isaac. You know, so you have to give some context to the suspension. Then finally, in terms of the ANC and these divisions, well, look, we don't want to be a reductionist and say it's one or two things and just have one or two scenarios, but let's attempt. Firstly, Ace Magashule, of course, have some of his close compatriots and friends and comrades within the ANC, NEC, and within the structures throughout the country. So he has some kind of support. And I would assume that they will continue with the fight in terms of the RET fight, and obviously would want to continue to defend the Secretary General up until conference where he can appeal. Will they be successful? I doubt. because a number of them, the reason why they are so passionately backing him is because they find themselves in the same situation where they must step aside and where the law is coming for them.